Hello and welcome. I am Deji Badimasi. At this very moment, Nigerians across the country are heading to the polls to vote in today's presidential and National Assembly elections. They'll be electing a new president for the country and members of parliament in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. Now, 18 presidential candidates are on the ballot to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari, who is serving out his second and final term of office. For the Senate, 1,100 candidates across the country are in the running for the 109 seats in the upper chamber. Now, that number would have been 1,101, but the gruesome killing of that Labour Party senatorial candidate in Enugu State, that's southeast Nigeria, reduced the number. INEC has said the election for that district would be shifted. Now, for the House of Representatives, 3,122 candidates are in contention for the 360 seats in the House. Quite a crowded affair there, if you ask me. The campaigns have been quite intense, especially for the presidential race. The frontrunners took their campaigns to virtually every part of this country, each of them making very compelling pitches why they should be elected president. Now, all eyes are on INEC, that's the Independent National Electoral Commission, to deliver on its promise of a free, fair, and transparent election. The electoral body says it expects things to go relatively smoothly, and that is what everyone prays for now and expects. The current cash crunch has been a big talking point in the run-up to the election, and of course there are concerns it could negatively impact the election in one way or another. But we just have to wait and see how that happens. Now, let's jump into some statistics about this election that you should know, and let's take a look at some statistics now. As I said at the very beginning, there are actually 18 candidates taking part in this election. 18 of them now belonging to 18 political parties. These are all the candidates and their political parties. As I said, 18 of them. But then this race is considered, well, some people would say it's a 3-horse race. Some would argue that it's a 4-horse race involving the APC candidate, the PDP candidate, the Labour Party candidate, and of course the NNPP candidate. But some people will tell you it's actually a 3-horse race. But then this is a break from tradition, because from 1999 to date, our presidential election had always been a 2-horse race. It had always been between the two dominant parties in this country, the PDP and the APC. But this time it is different. At the very least, we can say there are 3 dominant candidates who are in the running to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari. And of course, we're talking about Bola Tinubu of the APC, Atiku Abubakar of the PDP, and Peter Obi of the Labour Party. Of course, you could also not discountenance Rabiu Kwankwaso of the NNPP. Now, these are the candidates, as I said, 18 of them actually, all of them belonging to 18 political parties. Now, something you should know, this is the total number of registered voters, 93,469,008. That is the total number of registered voters. But then this is not the end of the story, because not all of these persons now are eligible to vote in this election. It's only those who have their PVCs now that will be allowed to vote. That's the personal voter card now that would be allowed to vote. And then something else I should explain to you, the total number of polling units in this for this election now is 176,846. So the election now will be taking place across these polling units. And of course, look at the total number of registered political parties. I did tell you about that, 18 of them. Now, polling unit agents, all the political parties now have sent in their polling unit agents now to the National Electoral Commission. Now, these polling unit agents will be playing a very crucial role, because they are like the eyes of the various political parties and their candidates now at the polling unit. So they will be monitoring the process now for their political parties. The PDP has a total of 176,588 polling unit agents. Of course, that's That's a fairly large number. They are followed by the APC, 176,223 polling unit agents. Then the NPP. The NPP, that's the party of Rabiu Kwankwaso, has a total of 176,200 polling unit agents. Then the Labour Party, it's 134,874 polling unit agents. Then the ADC. Now, what we have done here is to highlight the parties now with the highest number of polling unit agents. ADC has 96,043. Now, something has happened with the ADC. That party is it's factionalized, if you like, and there's a faction led by the national chairman of the party that has now declared collapse its structure now for the Labour Party candidate. So, if you take the polling unit agents now of that faction and add to the number you have for the Labour Party, then obviously the number would go up. Now, let's talk about the voters now, according to their geopolitical zones. Now, in 2023, that's the total number of registered voters by geopolitical zones. But of course, look at what it was in 2020. So obviously, there is an increase. But don't forget, this is actually the number of registered voters according to the geopolitical zones. So the Northwest has the highest number of registered voters. But don't forget, at the end of the day, it's actually not those who are registered that would be allowed to vote for this election. It's actually those who have their PVCs that would be allowed to vote. So the numbers will definitely come down here. So the Northwest has over 22 million registered voters. It's followed by the Southwest, 17 million. And then you have the North Central, 15. The lowest, of course, is the Southeast with 10,907,606 voters now. Now, this election, INEC has said, will be about the youth, that young people, that this election is about the youth. And look at the age group of the registered voters now, and then you get a clear idea of why INEC says this election will be about young people. So youths between the age of 18 and 34 is 37,060,399. That's a fairly large number. Then you have the middle age between 35 and 49. You can still classify them as youths, 33,413,591. Now, when you combine the two figures, these two figures now, you're looking at something around 70 million. So that gives you a fair idea that this election would be more about young people. They would actually determine who becomes the next president of this country, and of course those who are going to go to the National Assembly. Now, the elderly between the ages of 50 and 69 is 17,700,270, and then the old 70 plus and above, it's 70 and above, I should say, 5 million, just slightly over 5 million. Now, registered, the top 5 states now with the highest number of registered voters. Lagos has the highest number of registered voters, 7,060,195. Now, it's followed by Kano, 5 million. So Lagos actually has the highest number of registered voters. Now, when we begin to do the analysis based on the PVCs collected now, you'd get a clear idea now of the number of people who would be allowed to vote in this election. But these figures clearly give, the figures now give you an idea of where you would expect the candidates now to be targeting, because any candidate, for instance, who is able to win across these 5 states with the highest number of registered voters, and obviously they have the highest number of PVC collections, any candidate who wins in all of these states could win this election, could win the presidential election. So these states are very important. 5 of them, Lagos, Kano, Kaduna, Rivers, and Katsina State, very, very important. And of course, the various candidates now will be aiming to win big there. Now, let's talk about those PVCs, because this is where the real issue is. As I said, The number of total registered voters for this election is just over 93 million. But then look at the number of people who collected their PVCs. The number of PVCs collected is 87,209,007. So this is the number. This is the number of persons who will be allowed to vote in this election. So the number of persons eligible to vote in this election, 87,209,007, because they have their PVCs. Because INEC has said, look, without your PVC, you would not be allowed to vote in these elections. There's just no way you'd be allowed to vote in this election without your PVC. So the PVC is very important, because when you get to the polling unit, of course, that PVC would have to be verified during the accreditation process. You have to show it. It has to be verified. And that it's only when you show that PVC, of course, that you'll be allowed to vote. Now look at the total number of uncollected PVCs, 6,259,229. If you ask me, that's a very high number. It's quite a surprise that we still have this number of PVCs uncollected. So it definitely means for those who do not have their PVCs, those who didn't collect their PVCs, of course, will not be allowed to vote in these elections. Now, still talking about the PVCs, these are the states now with the highest number of PVCs collected. Lagos State has 6,214,970. You can see the clear difference now between the number of registered voters and the PVCs collected. In terms of registered voters, Lagos has over 7 million now. But look at the number of PVCs collected, 6,214,970. So the number of persons who are eligible to vote in Lagos State in this election, that's the number there, 6 million. For Kano State is 5,594,193. Look at Kaduna State coming next at just over 4 million, Katsina at over 3 million, and then Rivers. So these 5 states are actually very important. As I said before, any candidate who is able to win across these 5 states stands a good chance of making it to the finish line now at the end of the day, and could be the next president of this country. Now, look at the other 5 states with the highest number of PVCs collected: Delta, Oyo, Bauchi, Plateau, and Niger. I mean, look at that number, 2 million. For Delta, it's close to 3 million. That's 2.9 million. Oyo is 2.7, Bauchi 2.7, Plateau 2.6, Niger 2.6. I mean, these are very huge numbers, and all the candidates will be aiming to do very well across these 10 states. In fact, any candidate who fails to do well across these 10 states does not stand a chance at all. Let's look at the next slide. Now, the number of registered voters by geopolitical zones, this is the number of registered voters now by geopolitical zones. For the Northeast, there you have the figure. For the Northwest, there you have it. Now, the Northwest is very crucial. The Northwest has the highest number of registered voters and has the highest number of PVCs collected. So the candidates, of course, will be aiming to do very well in the Northwest. It's difficult. It's actually difficult to see a pathway for any winner in this election who does not do well in the Northwest of the country. The Northeast also quite crucial. Let's look at the next slide. Well, let's look at the next slide now. The North Central and the South. These are very crucial areas as well. Look at the number of registered voters there. Of course, when it comes to PVCs collected, it won't be up to that number. We're going to look at that. And then look at the number of registered voters now in the Southeast and the Southwest. The Southeast actually has the least number of registered voters and has the least number of PVCs collected. So it's always been like that anyway. So not a surprise. For the Southwest, of course, has the second highest number of PVCs collected. So the Southwest is very crucial in this election. Any candidate who is able to do to win at the end of the day, well, we have a problem here. Any candidate who's able to do well in the Southwest and of course the Southeast would obviously make it to the finish line. If we can let's look at the next slide now. That's the number of PVCs collected now by geopolitical zones. Very important. Look at the Northwest, 19,500 and 94,945. That is a huge number. It's a huge number. Now, for the Southwest coming next, 15,536,213. So the Southwest and the Northwest, very crucial. I'm not saying that the other geopolitical zones now are not important, but of course, you would expect that the candidates will be aiming to win big in the Northwest and the Southwest because they have the highest number of registered voters and they have the highest number of PVC collections. The North Central, very key, coming at 14.6 million. Look at the Northeast, 13.6 million. The South-South, 13.6. And of course, the South-East at 10.4. So there you have the figures. Very important. The truth is that every candidate is expected to do well across those states. Now, let's look at polling units now where election would not be taking place. Remember, INEC said there are over 200 polling units now where elections will not be taking place for security reasons and, of course, for other reasons as well. So those who are registered in these polling units have actually been moved away. And now this is a breakdown of the polling units. In Imo State, you have 38 polling units, and not a surprise, Imo State, of course, has been badly affected by security challenges. But other than security, there are other reasons why INEC has decided to shift people, to move people away from these polling units. In some of the polling units, the number of registered voters there, in some cases, just too few. So INEC had to move people away. So and there is a concern that for those who have been moved away from some of these polling units, it might be difficult for them to identify their polling units at the end, during election. We just have to wait and see how that plays out. In Taraba State, it's actually 34 polling units. Borno State comes next with 12 polling units, and then Abia, 12 polling units. Let's look at the next slide. Now, this is very important because people need to understand this. It's not enough, for instance, to get the highest number of votes cast in this election to be declared the winner. That is for the presidency now. To be declared the winner of this election, a candidate, and that is section 134 of the Nigerian Constitution. It says for a candidate to be declared the winner of this election, that candidate has to have the highest number of votes cast at the election, and then the candidate also should have not less than one quarter of the votes cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. So we're looking at a quarter of the votes now in about, maybe around 25 states. So it's not enough to get the highest number of votes. The candidate who wins must also get the spread. And of course, there's a reason for this. The reason is because the framers of the Constitution want a situation where whoever becomes the president is someone who is accepted by the entire country and voted for by the entire country. So it's not enough for you to win your geopolitical zone or your area. You need to get votes now across the states of this country, the 36 states of this country. So that is the reason for that. So it's very important that people have that in mind. Well, these are the things you should bear in mind as you go to vote. We're going to take a short break now, and we'll be right back with some guests now to analyze some of those statistics now that we have shown you. Stay with us, don't go away. We'll be right back.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On Digi 360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it. Use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
Digi 360, dissecting the issues.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Corruption not in my country.
Hello, Alhaji. Right now I'm in Abuja. No. Hello, Adamu. Right now I'm in Kano. Yes. When I get back, I will just call you. Look, what is wrong with you? I'm talking on the phone and you are gesticulating and doing. What's wrong with you?
Daddy, where exactly are we as we speak?
Are you alright? This is Lagos.
Well, you just lied to someone that we're in Abuja.
Keep quiet. Who told you can tell an elderly person is lying?
Daddy, you just lied. And by lying, you are raising corrupt children for the future of Nigeria. That is corruption, not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
And wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. you and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the go-to app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other People Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Welcome back. Now, even before the commencement of the election, one presidential candidate has already conceded defeat. The presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, Dumebi Kachuku, says even though he would be running in the election, he is certain he cannot win. Listen to him.
I don't see any pathway to victory for my party in the race. In saying that, I never said that I am withdrawing from the race. I just said that I don't see a pathway to victory. And in being a true Democrat, when you don't see a pathway to victory, what you are saying is this. In the race we are going into, a vote might make the difference. One vote might make the difference. So it's important for me to let Nigerians know my position in this race and what my chances are. So that those who follow me, those who support me, have the informed decision on what to do, knowing that our party does not have any real chance towards success in the polls.
Well, this is very interesting. It's the very first time a presidential candidate in this country would come out to openly declare he cannot win. Mr. Kachuku's party has actually been plagued by internal wrangling. A faction of the party has already declared support for the Labour Party's presidential candidate, Peter Obi. So, not a surprise at all that Mr. Kachuku has come out to say this. But let me at this point now bring in my first guest, Nelson Ekunjimi, He joins us from, well, he's on the street in Lagos. Nelson, thank you very much for coming on the program. And I can see you're all ready and set to go for the observation of this election, because I know you are an accredited observer now for the election. But let me quickly ask you this, Nelson. Does it surprise you at all that a presidential candidate would be conceding defeat, well, even before the election starts? Well, it's like Nelson cannot hear me. I think we're going to try and get back to him. Okay, I think we have a problem with that connection now. But the truth is that this is actually a surprise. So Nelson, I can see you are back now. Okay, are you surprised that a presidential candidate is conceding defeat even when the election has not started? The ADC presidential candidate saying he does not see any pathway for him to victory in this election.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, and wishing Nigerians a peaceful and successful 2023 general elections. Yes, absolutely is a shocker to me, just like I'm sure it will be to millions of Nigerians. This is unprecedented, even though it's the fact, because a lot of times you see politicians making all the boasts, and you are like, wow, where is the confidence coming from? Knowing fully well, you know, the pedigree of this candidate and his political party. But be that as it may, I'm very, very surprised that, you know, a candidate, not even a presidential candidate, a candidate for an election that is holding will come out openly and tell the whole world that his party stands no chance. So you want to ask yourself, why is the party running for the election? Because I know very well from my elementary days in the university that the purpose of a political party contesting an election is to win, even though at the end of the day it might not win, and you know it will be like the opposition a party in, you know, out of government. But for him to have come out, it shows clearly that maybe the good times are here.
Okay, now I can see you're all ready and set to go for election monitoring now. As an observer in this election, what exactly do you expect to see? What are your expectations?
Thank you very much once again. My expectations for this election is that based on the way the political parties have campaigned vigorously, and based on the reportage that has been very, very extensive, both in the mainstream media as well as the social media, and you see billboards and posters everywhere, one expects that Nigerians will turn out in their large numbers, because whether you like it or not, democracy has come to stay. And it is only by huge participation of the people in the elections, you know, that we can deepen democracy, because the people are the bedrock of democracy. So going out this morning, I want to tell you that I'm full of optimism, because even in my neighborhood there, we have canvassed ourselves, we have told ourselves we are coming out today to vote. Even as an observer, before going out fully, I'm going to cast my vote in my polling station, because my polling station is right behind my house. This is my permanent voter's card, with which I'm going to cast. I must ensure that I also perform my civic responsibility before going out for the observation.
Now, one thing that is of major concern in this election is a possible turnout. You look at the total number of PVCs collected, 87,209,007. That's a fairly huge number. Do you expect that we may have probably, say, 50% or slightly above 50% of this number come out to vote today?
You know, globally, except in the Scandinavian countries where voting is made compulsory, in some Scandinavian countries, the turnout for elections all over the world is usually around 40-45%. So if we can have 50% voters turnout for this election, that would be huge, that would be massive. It will mean that the work we have all done collectively as a people, it means that our work has sunk into the consciousness of our people. So by and large, even if I'm not expecting 50%, I expect that we should not go below 45. That would tell us that, you know, we have done our bit, and, you know, we can give ourselves a pass mark. So I expect the turnout to be huge. I must come.
And what do you make of this number of uncollected PVCs? Over 6 million uncollected PVCs. With the kind of campaign and enlightenment campaign we saw in the run-up to this election, you would think that there would be no PVCs left.
Well, it's not possible for you to, because a lot of persons who collected the PVC, a lot of them are no more. Some are relocated, and some maybe for other reasons are not going to collect the PVC. So for anybody to assume that we won't have uncollected PVC, then that person is not being honest with himself or herself. So I expect that we'll have this number of PVC, but this huge number is something that we need to investigate going forward. Why do you have this huge number? Such that if there are people who are no more, who have passed on, then we can quickly, take their names off the register and make do with those. And we can also do, a forensic audit to know the numbers that are, relocated outside of the country or who are somewhere that, that are not reachable.
Now, let's look at this slide now. The number of PVC states with the highest number of PVCs collected. The first 5 states, you have Lagos, Kano, Kaduna, Katsina, and Rivers. Does it surprise you at all that these states are actually leading now in terms of PVCs collected?
No, it doesn't surprise me, because if you look at the population, the 2 leading states are like commercial nerve centers of the country. You talk of Lagos, a state with a population that is as huge as that of 5 African countries put together. A country with the 5th largest, GDP in sub-Saharan Africa. Then you look at Kano. The population in Kano is also huge, and that is why you can see that those 2 states are leading. So the collection of PVCs in these states is a reflection of the population in those states and a reflection of the political consciousness, because these are states where if you cough in the political office, your sneezing or your cough, gets the attention of all and sundry. So I'm not surprised that these are the leading states in terms of PVC collection. It's a reflection of the total number of registered voters in those states.
Now, one thing INEC has said, and when you look at the figures, you clearly would say yes, INEC is correct. INEC has said, look, this election is for the youth because they make up the majority of registered voters. And when you look at the number, youths aged 18 to 34, over 37 million, and then young persons as well. The middle-aged people between 35 and 49, you can still classify them as youths. 33 million. So altogether, you're looking at 70 million of young people now registered to vote in this election. So how crucial do you think they are in determining who wins this presidential election?
Oh, like we all know that democracy is a game of numbers, and if this population are the people with the highest number of voters, it tells you clearly that for now they are the beautiful brides. They are the ones who have been, courted by the various political parties, for them to be their suitors today at the polls with their thumb. So these figures, cut across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. So it tells you clearly that, the advocacy on youth participation in governance, on youth participation in our democracy is sinking in. And one can only hope that with the huge number that we have seen here, that it will translate to them coming out today, which is election day, to perform their civic responsibility. So you can't run away from the fact that this population is one that, should give anybody a source for joy. That, look, the people that we are going to hand over the country to, are people who are already learning through the ropes, and the one hopes they learn very well.
Do you have any concern at all? Any concern at all for this election?
Yes, I have. My major concern about the election is the prevalence of fake news. I'm disturbed that, agents of destabilization and anti-democratic elements, because run down to this election, the public space has been bedeviled by all sorts of fake news that even as a keen observer, you want to be very, very careful before you broadcast any news. Even till yesterday, we still had some news in the public space. So for me, my greatest concern is how we tackle the menace of fake news. And I think this is the time for us to start an advocacy around this, such that the merchants of fake news will know that, their business will run out very soon.
All right, Nelson, I think we'll just we'll let you run so that you go for your observation mission now. But of course, later in the day, we would love to speak with you to give us your take now on what you have observed. Thank you very much for coming on the program, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. I'll be available. Thank you.
All right, that's Nelson Ekunjimi, who is, of course, an observer now for these elections. So he's of course, going to hit the road now to go observe the election to see how things would go. We're going to take a short break now, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Don't go away.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1.
Welcome back. Now, one of the major concerns during this election is security. The Inspector General of Police, Alkali Baba, says over 400,000 security personnel have been deployed for the election. Despite that, there are still concerns about some flashpoints in the country, like the Southeast, where a senatorial candidate was killed 2 days ago, and where INEC facilities have often come under attack. The security agents have said they are up to the task, and everyone is now hoping they live up to that pledge. Let's bring in another guest now. Dayo Akintobi joins me from another part of Lagos to look at these security concerns. Dayo, thank you very much for coming on the program. How serious do you think these security concerns are?
Well, they're very serious because the country the administration has ended up having to roll out the military. By the time you start seeing the army get involved in internal security operations, you know it means there's a clear and obvious threat to these elections, which is why the army has had to be involved. Police is who generally handles matters of internal security, and they've deployed a maximum complement of officers. The IGP said 400,000. But obviously, those are being supported by the military. We've seen armored tanks rolling around the streets of Lagos in the last few days. We've seen a heightened presence of both police and the military. So clearly, with some of the incidents that have occurred in the last few months, security-wise, especially in the southeast, it is a clear cause for concern. Of course, because there are some people who are intent on disrupting these polls. There are some who don't want the elections to happen. There are some who want to intimidate some voters to skew the elections in particular directions. So violence is a threat. It's always a threat, but in this particular instance, it's a greater threat than we've seen recently.
Now we know that a faction of a separatist group in the southeast has declared today a seat-at-home day, just as a mark of protest. We've seen how effective this seat-at-home has been over the past year. It's been quite effective. Do you think that pronouncement could sort of suppress voters now in the southeast region, that some people may choose, some voters may choose not to come out because of fear?
Without a doubt, it will have some impact. I'm hoping not as major an impact as the Monday sit at home. Let's remember that in the past, the separatist group you referred to has essentially disavowed this sit at home, saying that it has rescinded that order a while back, and it looks like it is a splinter group or a rogue element of the separatist movement that has hijacked the process and is continuing to use threats and intimidation, perhaps primarily for pecuniary purposes. So for the sit at home to now be extended to election day, I'm hoping and thinking that the people will take it with a grain of salt, even though the Monday one has proven to be rather effective. I'm hoping that the people will say exercising their franchise is the quickest path to peace in their community, in their political zone, and that they will recognize the fact that it is important for them to get the right leadership in place that will bring an end to all the pains and all the devastation and violence that is wreaking havoc in their area. So I believe the police and the security agencies are up to the task of ensuring that they provide the kind of security that will give confidence to the voters in the southeast to go out and exercise their franchise today.
Now, INEC has said that it expects everything to go well, that the usual logistics nightmare that we've come to associate INEC now with during elections is, of course, INEC has said we're not going to see that logistics nightmare. Of course, we're waiting to see, we're still waiting to hear from our correspondents now how quickly INEC is able to deploy for this election. But when you hear INEC say that, look, it believes things are going to go smoothly, it doesn't anticipate any major problem as far as logistics is concerned, do you have any confidence at all in that?
Not really, to tell you the truth, because it's like a broken record. Every time they assure us that things will go well, and there will always be hitches. Just the nature of our country. I mean, first of all, remember, we're currently bedeviled by lack of cash. We're bedeviled by fuel scarcity as well. Those things will affect INEC's logistics. Although INEC said the CBN had given it most of the money it requested, most is not all. And even if they've got all the money they need, how about fuel supply? How about insecurity issues in the places they have to get the election materials to? How about things like the harsh terrain, the riverine areas that are difficult to get to? I mean, things even as simple as the election officials showing up on time at the polling booths, the polling stations. Many of them don't get there on time. Matter of fact, we've already begun to see signs of the fact that there will be hitches. I'll tell you, as a journalist, in picking up our accreditation material, our passes, our tags, our vehicle stickers that permit us to move around.
Well, unfortunately, I think we lost him there, but we just have to wait and see how INEC delivers on its promise. But the expectation is that this election will go smoothly. We expect that the usual logistics nightmare would not be as bad as it used to be, what we saw, for instance, in 2019 and 2015. So let's just hope INEC delivers, that materials now, both its staff and materials, arrive at polling units in good time. Don't forget, voting is supposed to start, or the whole process is supposed to begin at 8:30 in the morning, and of course end at 2:30. But then INEC has said, even after 2:30, whoever is on the queue or on the line to vote and who has been accredited would definitely be allowed to vote. So it really doesn't matter how long it takes, that they would be allowed to vote. But then the process is supposed to officially end at 2:30. Another thing we're waiting to see a difference in would be the speed with which election results, the results now are declared. In the past, it would take, for instance, 2-3 days to know who has won a presidential election. But let's just hope it's different this time. Let's hope that the BVAS, that's the bimodal voter accreditation system now, would help to speed up the process. The INEC chairman has said he expects that the process will be speeded up, that Nigerians should expect to get the result earlier than usual. But then let's not forget, this is a very large country. We're talking about 36 states of the country and the Federal Capital Territory, and some locations are quite remote where elections will be taking place. So it won't be that easy now to make returns from some of these remote locations. But that is where the BVAS is expected to make the difference. So we hope that the election goes peacefully and that results are declared as quickly as possible, so that we can move on with our lives. And we also hope that the vote, the cash crunch that Dayo Akintobi talked about, and of course the petrol scarcity, we hope they don't make a big dent on this election. But the truth is that, look, the cash crunch has been biting very hard and is still biting hard. There's still petrol scarcity in some parts of the country, almost every part of the country. But let's hope they don't really affect the election very much. So as you go out to cast your vote, please do it peacefully, and let's just hope this process goes very smoothly and goes very well. And at the end of the day, we have the president that we have elected. We're going to end it here for now, and I'll be back later in the day with you. But continue to stay tuned to TV 360. I'll leave you for now.